Hello again, it's Ron Anderson with Dirtylocust Garden Center. You know, I believe that most of the people on YouTube are trying to either entertain or help someone. And so I think we fall into the category of helping someone. And so as you watch our videos, hope it helps you on your journey and maybe even does a shortcut. So if you like what you see, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. This is going to be our introduction video for almost all our videos. All right, take care. Okay, so why do we use the soil that we use today? I'll try to make a long story short. In 2007, I won 3 bonsai trees. In March of 2007. In April, I won that at the Santa Cruz Bonsai Kai, the club there. In April, I went to the meeting and, you know, I'm excited. I'm thinking this is gonna be wonderful. And then I went in May and then I went in June. And by June, I started to get a little bit more comfortable and I started asking people, what did they use for soils? And so someone would come next to me and they'd say, I use river sand from the San Lorenzo River that I've sifted to a smaller size, and I use fir bark, and I use cedar and cocoa husk. So I write that down. And then somebody else would come, 10 minutes later, I'd say, well, what do you use for bonsai soil? So in a long story short, by the end of some of these meetings, and then I also went to other associations, other clubs in the area. There was Watsonville, there was Monterey, and I'd ask them the same question. I'd say, what type of soil do you use? Long story short, everybody used something completely different. And it made you go, And so I wasn't sure who to follow, what soils to use. So I started experimenting. And I went down to the nearest store and I bought that soil called bonsaimix. And the bonsaimix looked real close to potting soil. But that's what I used. And then I purchased a whole bunch of maples and I was gonna be Maple Man. And all of these maples died. And they died because I lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains and it's like a rainforest. We got crazy amount of rain. So there began my journey of how do I keep these trees alive? 2008, here's the mix I came up with. I took whatever garden soil, Miracle-Gro mix that they had, and I sifted out the largest chunks, the smallest chunks, and I just kept the medium-sized chunks. Then I got pumice from a local store. Then I got lava from a local store. And that was the mix. Oh, and some charcoal. And so from 2008, 2009, 2010, that's what I used it with. And I used it on maples again. And the maples did okay. They, you know, now at least I wasn't killing them, putting them in 100% potting soil, okay? So now I had more drainage, more aeration, and they did okay. Here's the next step.
You know, I wanted to show you one more thing. I don't know where you're at and what you can find, but I found one of our original mixes from 2009 and 10 when I was using a little bit of fir bark. And so here, looks like turkey grit, a little decomposed granite. And this is my, remember I told you I switched out? Well, this was my exploration time of finding bonsai mix, and it did okay, but not as good as straight. So once I removed all of these little tiny fir bark and things like that, the roots really took off. However, if there's nothing else around, then this is a possibility. But I switched this out, and like you hear in the video, in 2011, I believe.
So I would Google environment because your environment is completely different than mine. I now live in Sacramento. And at that time, when I first got involved in bonsai, I lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Santa Cruz Mountains gets anywhere from 65 to 75, 80 inches of rain in a year. Well, here in Sacramento, we might get 9 to 11. And the temperature during the summer, I might be 90 at a high in Santa Cruz. We get 116 here. So your environment is really going to play a difference on the type of soil you use. There is no one soil that works for every environment. Okay, so after we finish and I finish showing you how to make bonsai mix, just think, there's not a perfect soil for every single environment. Okay, you will have to try some things out, but I'm going to help you with that on what trees are the easiest to do and see what works in your area environment. All right, so 2007 to 2008 was my learning period. I was learning what soils that I wanted to try to use because there was no set soil out of the 300-400 people that I talked to. And so I came upon some different ideas. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stop right here and I'm gonna go and I'd written down all the different types of soils that you could use. I'm gonna read them to you, and it just shows you why when you first get started in bonsai, it's a little bit confusing and there's so many opinions out there. So the goal is to find something that works for you in your area. But I wanna read these before I continue. Okay, let's go back to when I was first involved in bonsai and I would ask people, what type of soil do you use? I'm just gonna read some of these off. There was just too many. I remember writing these all down because this is what people told me. Okay, so there was peat moss, fir bark, cedar bark, orchid bark, perlite, vermiculite, pumice, cal, rockadama, akadama, sphagnum moss, bat guano, worm castings, sand, loam, lava, coconut core, coconut husk, compost, topsoil, clay, seaweed, yes, seaweed, wood chips, rice hulls, turfus, dry stall, kitty litter, and river sand. And I didn't even write them all down. I just remember, these are some of the ones I remember, okay? So you're sitting here in bonsai, and they don't have bonsai stores everywhere you go with the right mix. So now, here you are at home. In this later part of this video, I'm gonna show you how to make a pretty simple, easy, and fast mix. In March of 2010, I decided to try something a little different. I took out, remember all that the sifted, whatever was left, the smallest of the organics. I took all the organics out of half of some of the trees I was doing. And so that was 2010. Now you need about a year or two to see what roots can do. So I planted in 2010, and by about 2011, we had a storm. So the trees had only been in there maybe 7 or 9 months. And the trees blew over, some of them came out. The difference is there was double or triple the amount of roots. I went, wow, I need to change all the trees to this. And that's what we did. So I started the next year, so now we're 2011. The next year, I switched all the trees to complete non-organic. So just pumice, lava, charcoal, decomposed granite. And that's what we've been using ever since. And you know, it's not about keeping your tree alive. Keeping your tree alive sometimes is pretty easy. It's about making it thrive. And so that's what we did with this mix. Now, doesn't mean that mix is gonna work for you. You may have to try something different in your area. So, but I'm still gonna show you how we made this mix, and then I'll show you some roots and how and if your roots look like this or better, then you should use whatever you're using. I just want to show you some pictures of the roots that we did. And we repot about every 2 years.
Okay, as promised, we've got to the point in the video where I'm now going to show you how to make pretty fast and easy bonsai mix. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need inside this bucket is pumice. And pumice comes to you, and it may have, you know, other little things in it. Could be some little rocks, other things that come with the pumice. Okay, then this is lava. Okay, and then, okay, so we're going to put those aside. The next thing you need are the 3 sieves that come with your sieve. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the large one and put that on the bottom. Oh, I forgot, you may need this to keep the dust out of your face and your nose, and some gloves. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sift out the largest size. And then I'm going to put my mask on now. So the largest size you can use as drainage. Okay? All right. Okay, so there's all the large size. I'll put that in another bucket and use that for drainage. Okay, so as you can see, I'm now going to take off the largest one. Okay. And I'm going to put on the smallest one. What I want to do now is get all the dust and the smallest pieces out. Okay. So now, as you can see, most of the dust is out of here. Okay. And that's a perfect size for bonsai mix. Look at all the dust. So that was only in about 2 or 3 cups. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same process with the pumice. Now, I've already taken a lot of the big pumice out. I ran this through another sifter, but it just shows you, even though you've done this, there's a lot of dust. Take out any debris. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing with the smaller grid.
Lost in rhythms, gentle in a lulling sway.
Okay, same thing again. I'm going to take off the larger grid, put on the smaller grid, and then I'm going to pour this through here. Glad I put a mask on. It's just starting to rain and get a little windy. Okay, now that we've done that, this is about the size that we need for our bonsai mix. Okay, so that's step one. Oh, I forgot. Look how much dust we got out of that. Just that little bit. That was 2 or 3 cups. Okay, do you want to know the secret? The secret to make your roots really grow is get all the other stuff out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you do you see all that muck and dust? That's after I sifted it. So we do this with all of our mix. Okay, so here's the secret. As you saw, I wash this about 2 or 3 times, and then we switch up. So this is all of our lava that we've washed. We wash it until it's nice and clean, and then I'm going to dump this out. I'm going to dump it out and hose it out. As you can see, all that. Okay. So now, here is our lava that's been washed, and then what I do is I put it aside and let it dry. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing to our pumice. And like I said, in your pumice there could be little tiny rocks. It's not straight pumice. It could have little tiny other pieces of rock in here. There could be granite, little pieces of almost look like glass. Okay, and there you see. And again, I'm going to do that 3 times. Okay, I'm going to empty all this out. Okay. And then we'll just simulate that we're going to do it 3 times. But I do it 3 times to make sure that all the dust is out. Okay, so this is the mix that we use. It's the exact lava and pumice that I just showed you. And this is after we've now combined it. I let it dry and then combine it. The reason I don't wash it and combine it all at one time is because all of the lava will pick up all the red dust. So I've just learned how to wash those separate. But this is a finished product. All right, here's our final product. It's now dried. We have our lava, we have our pumice, and if you see, I've added a little bit of charcoal to the mix, and that's what we use on every single plant. And I'll go ahead and post the videos, and you can tell me what you think of all the different roots you can see.